And let's just quickly speak to our foreign editor, Sophie Mokoena, as the body of John Magufuli, the late president of Tanzania, has arrived in Zanzibar. Mokoena, good afternoon, good morning rather, and welcome to the agenda. Tell us what we know so far around the arrival of the president's remains.
Well, we know that yesterday the president's remains were in Dodoma, where many heads of state, particularly from the SADC, had an opportunity to say farewell to President Magufuli. And today the body is now, actually it arrived 30 minutes ago in Zanzibar, an island, that is familiar with many South African, I guess, who often visit Tanzania for holidays. We know that it will be there for Zanzibar community or citizens. As you can see in the screen right now, people lining up the street saying farewell to President Magufuli. You also know that the current president of Zanzibar, of Tanzania, President Hassan, is from Zanzibar. Now, Zanzibar has got its own president and almost like a premier or person who's in charge of that island. He will deliver the speech today, but we see thousands of Tanzanians in Zanzibar lining up the street as the body is being driven around or is being taken to different streets in Zanzibar, so that they can also have a chance to say farewell to the late president.
Yeah. So it will also take a couple of days at least before the final burial in Chateau. Do we know what's going to happen in between today, for instance, with the body of the president going through the streets of Zanzibar? What happens after that until Friday?
It will be taken to another province where people will also have the opportunity to view the body, and therefore finally it will be he will be laid to rest on the 26th of March, and that will be the final event. You know that in terms of government official funeral, it was held yesterday in Dodoma. There's hope that perhaps on Friday it will just be a private event. You know that in Zimbabwe the similar plan was implemented when the late President Mugabe passed on. There was a national, almost like a memorial, but they call it a funeral program or service. And then later it was a private burial in his home village of Kutama. So there are indications that the same will happen with President Magufuli, because he is going to be buried in his home village.
We can't also not highlight the conversation around COVID-19 when it comes to the former president, but also looking at the visuals that we are currently showing on our screens, a stark contrast to what we see happening in other countries when it comes to what we refer to as lockdown restrictions, as well as measures that are being put in place to make sure that there is no spread of COVID-19. What do you make of what we're currently seeing on our TV screens, and also the country's attitude towards COVID-19?
Aldrin, it's a very difficult one. I think many people have pointed out to the danger of Tanzanians not wearing masks or really subscribing to the non-pharmaceutical precautionary measures that were outlined by the World Health Organization. And the World Health Organization did also talk about this issue. You know, Dr. Tedros has on many occasions indicated that no country is immune from COVID-19. But as you know, that the UN agencies, they can't be hard and rough. They use diplomacy, because whatever is done or is agreed upon at the UN is consensus-based, and therefore you have to be diplomatic even in your statement if you intend to rebuke a state, a member state. We saw Dr. Muyeti 2 weeks ago. She was hopeful that with the appointment of the task team that will look at procurement of vaccines in Tanzania, there was hope. But when you look in terms of what has been happening since the passing on of President Magufuli, it's a huge problem. Yesterday in Dodoma, you could easily distinguish between locals and foreign dignitaries, because majority of foreign dignitaries, even heads of state and government, were wearing masks, but the Tanzanians were not. Even the president of Tanzania, President Hassan, was not wearing a mask, neither was the first lady wearing a mask, and the family. So it is a difficult one. I think it will be a topic this week, particularly after the final, journey of President Magufuli when he is laid to rest on Friday. Maybe the following week there will be some interventions. But I think it is the responsibility of the SADC countries, Aldrin. We are one region. Tanzania is part of us, a Southern African region. Even the secretary of the SADC region, Dr. Stegomina Tax, she is from Tanzania. And Dr. Stegomina Tax, you are not dealing with people who are not learned or who can't access information in Tanzania. Therefore, I think it's up to the SADC region to have a discussion with the current president of Tanzania, President Hassan.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, again, it will be an approach of diplomacy, not really calling out or rebuking the new president. But it's up to the media to continuously touch on this issue so that we as media are able to sensitize Tanzania on the danger and the risk involved. So let's hope that it will continue to be on the spotlight like you have done just now. It is the right thing to do. And maybe somewhere, somehow, even heads of state in SADC will stand up and speak to the president.
Because this is a very important conversation to be had. Then today, with the body arriving in Zanzibar, and as you've indicated earlier on, Zanzibar being one of the tourist attractions for Tanzania, also playing a role in terms of contribution to its GDP. I then wonder whether there is room to persuade President Hassan, considering that she comes from the same government, that had that hardened attitude towards COVID-19.
It is possible. It is possible. I think it will take a brave leadership in the SADC region to do that, not only in the region, but in East Africa as well, East Africa community, because Tanzania is also part of the East Africa community. And when you look at how East Africa community is handling COVID-19, you can see that it is a serious matter. You know, Rwanda, Uganda, you can criticize Museveni, but he's doing something. He has also gotten involved with different young people, science to discover, whatever is needed to address COVID-19 from science perspective and innovation. But also Kenya, they've received the vaccines. Rwanda has received the vaccines. You look at Uganda has also received vaccines. They are even trying their own formula that can lead to the production or manufacturing of vaccines. Therefore, I think it is up to the whole region and the Africa CDC, and not only the region, the whole world. And the danger also, you speak about Zanzibar. Zanzibar is a tourist attraction area. It is a tourist attraction area. When you look at the economy of Tanzania, the tourism is part of the most important pillar of that economy. And therefore, you don't want a situation where countries are imposing restrictions or banning their own citizens from or refusing to allow their citizens to visit Tanzania. Therefore, I think it's something that they will have to really discuss. And one asks a question, where is the leadership on the continent to try and persuade, not force, but persuade Tanzania to look at this pandemic differently? Because a pandemic is a pandemic, and it is called a pandemic because it affects everybody. And Tanzania is not immune.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Ms. Sophie Mokoena. And